going to be a very important question in this fight, because normally he reminds me of a modern-day type of Max Mellon. He basically uses the left jab. He doesn't do a lot of things with his hook. He basically looks for that perfect right hand. And I think the pace that Kirk is setting right now means he's going to have to pick it up a little bit. Either be guaranteed to have a knockout in the late rounds. Otherwise, he's going to have a problem winning a decision.
Kirk Johnson said a fascinating thing in our fighter meeting yesterday. He said, I looked at Maskaev, I took a look at his jawline, and I said to myself, no way I'm going to knock him out. Now, I asked another top trainer in the sport, Emmanuel, I said, what would you think about a fighter who acknowledges before a fight that he doesn't think he can knock his opponent out? He said, in this case, I think it's a very good thought, because if Kirk Johnson came to me and said he was going to knock Maskaev out, I would say, that's the wrong plan. You need to win a decision.
I would agree 100%. Sometimes you have to face the fact that you're not going to knock out the guy, and if you do, accept it as being just something that's fortunate that happens, and be prepared to go for a decision battle. And in this particular case, Johnson knows he's not a great puncher anyway. And the thing that the weakness with Johnson is basically, I don't think he's really that strong inside. I think Maskaev is a much stronger person from the inside. But whether he can land that big right hand is going to be a big factor for Maskaev.
So let's see if Johnson can keep the fight at range. Yes, Larry?
Well, two things. One is Johnson may not think he's going to knock him out, but he's letting him know there'll be a price to pay as he comes toward him. And secondly, there's also a little bit of a knot outside the left eye of Maskaev. I don't know if that happened as a result of a punch or whether it was there before, but I hadn't noticed it. I think it was as a result of a punch. When you get a better look, you'll see it.
But I do like the way that Maskaev is fighting. He's fighting a much more intense pace than he normally does in most of his fights. And as he's crowding Johnson is trying to throw a right hand that's really not landing that effective.
Well, as Maskaev has worked with a physical trainer over the course of the past 3 years, his body has changed. He used to look a little bit softer and more like just a big, plodding, strong type heavyweight. Now he's got an athletically cut build, but Johnson shows you his quickness with both the left and the right hand there.
And also Maskaev showed his great chin too. He didn't even flinch. Maybe Johnson was right.
That's a given. Maskaev has a beard. You go 11 rounds with David Dua, you've got a beard, and Maskaev did that.
And don't forget, Maskaev didn't have that much experience when he came here in those fights. He is really developed into a pretty decent fighter by moving and relocating here in the United States.
Lives in the Brighton Beach area of Brooklyn, which has many Russian residents. He was giving us a little bit of a restaurant guide last night.
That's the right hand. And he's cracked it before landing.
Kirk Johnson holding on as round one comes to a close after Maskaev cracked him with an overhand right.
Yeah, and his legs buckled.
Yeah, you got grip. All right, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Yeah, that's all right, baby. You in good shape. You did. Keep on sticking, though. Keep on sticking. You're looking good. Stick, and now you got to stick, foot throw combination, move. Listen to your stick, and throw combination, and move, okay? You got to move a little faster, Kirk. Move a little faster. You're a little slow out there.
If you watch at the end of the round, a good punch, and Johnson buckled. Fortunate that came in the last seconds of the round rather than in the middle of the round. There it is again from another angle.
But you see the experience from having amateur fights. He grabbed Maskaev. That's come from the experience of it, but I don't think it's going to be enough to hold Maskaev off as the fight progresses.
That's what Robert Davis didn't do with Lance Whitaker. In round one, Maskaev landed 5 out of 37 punches. One of them counted a lot. Johnson 8 out of 54, including, according to CompuBox, 0 for 20 in jabs. Harold Letterman gives the first round to Maskaev, and you heard Curtis Coates telling Kirk Johnson, oh no, you won that round, don't worry.
I gave that round to Johnson.
Well, regardless, I don't think it's going to go to limit. I think Maskaev's going to knock him out from what I can see.
That was a right hand by Johnson, and Maskaev stepping right through it again. Big left hand by Johnson, and Maskaev keeps coming.
Maskaev's is close, and he's going to land that short right hand. And Kirk's right hand is not that effective. But the thing is, Maskaev is crowding him. He's getting very much on top of him where he can't see the right hand as it's coming.
Maskaev stepping in and shortening the distance. And again, having the chin gives you the freedom to do this. If you think you can take your opponent's punch, you just keep coming forward and get into range to throw your own. It's so important in the heavyweight division to be able to withstand punishment.
You have to be able to take a good punch, particularly heavyweight. What Maskaev is doing, he's shooting his right hand after he gets very close. He's not shooting it at a long enough distance where Kirk can avoid it. Normally, Kirk Johnson depends on moving back and getting out of the range, but in this case, Maskaev is getting extremely close before he throws the right hand.
Vaughn Bean fought here on the undercard earlier this evening, and Johnson threw a right hand that came out of the Vaughn Bean playbook. Johnson just can't keep Maskaev off of it. Now he bombs him again with an overhand right. Johnson's plan was to jab and move. We see less and less of that.
That's
and Maskaev blocks him with the right.
The short right hand after he gets very close.
Trainer Bobby Jackson asked Maskaev to be more aggressive early. He said, I'm tired of watching Oleg let fighters coast. I want him to go out and kick ass from the very beginning. And Maskaev here in round 2 has a kick-ass look in his eye.
I've never saw him fight with this type of intensity.
Johnson with a body shot. Momentarily backs Maskaev off. Here comes the big O again.
In the corner, and you start looking at him, and you're pulling back. Give me that one. You're pulling back on your right hip. Stay on your left hip. Whatever comes, work like we're working. Slip it and punch hard. You understand? Give me a deep breath.
Nice and easy. Control your breathing. You know what to do.
Come on, this guy wants to go. Keep him backing up. But don't look at him when he stops. Work him over. Got me? You know what we worked on?
Let him find you. Jab, move. Shove him the pretty leg. Let them tossers fly. Okay? You got it? You all right?
Yes, mouthpiece.
Yeah, we got it. Here we go. Here we go. Come on. Let's move this round now. Don't slap with this boy.
To the bell. To the bell. Back to the corner.
Kirk Johnson has never lost a professional fight, but he confessed to us yesterday in our fighter meeting that he's nervous before every fight, and he thinks of every conceivable scenario by which he could lose, and he keeps asking his trainer, am I good enough? Did I do enough to get ready for this? Kirk Johnson has seen nothing in the first 2 rounds that should give him a greater sense of security against an oncoming Oleg Maskaev.
Being nervous before a fight is a normal reaction for most fighters, so it's nothing that unusual. But I'm really surprised that Johnson is fighting with so much determination himself. This has turned out to be a much more intense fight than I'd ever anticipated between these two.
Well, I'm not surprised at all, Emmanuel. He may have some limitations, and certainly does in terms of his strength. But he's always shown some courage when he was face down, and does the best he can for a guy who doesn't have a big punch. He just took a real hard right hand.
Don't hit.
Johnson is throwing right hands also, but his right hands are pretty much being shielded by Maskaev, and they have a little bit more arm on them than Maskaev. Maskaev has much more body weight, and they're much more short and direct. So it's really getting to be a battle of the right hands.
And you heard trainer Bobby Jackson urging Maskaev to keep that body weight coming forward. Not to lean back on the right hip, but rather to lean forward and keep punching.
He's fighting a much more aggressive fight than I ever anticipated.
So it's a good one here midway through the 3rd. Kirk Johnson throwing leather and doing some damage, but unable so far to halt the on-rushing Maskaev, who has a lot of self-belief to go with his big right hand.
the pressure and the tempo of the fight may be a big factor in the fact that Johnson, his mouth is open very much early in the fight. And if that continues the way it's going to be a big factor as the fight goes on, meaning that Johnson is getting tired. And he cannot afford to get tired with a fighter who punches with such a devastating short right hand as Maskaev has.
Trade rights. Johnson holding on every time he gets ripped with the right. Maskaev barging forward with his jab as though holding a telephone pole in front of him.
You notice Maskaev very seldom throws the left hook. All body punches. The entire attack is basically the short right hand.
That part is very Russian, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
You don't see the left hook to the body.
Yeah.
He's supposedly been polishing the uppercut in the gym. We haven't seen one yet.
Okay. All right.
And round 3 comes to a close. And tune in on Tuesday, October 10 for the next edition of Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. Among the stories, a look at parents who become violent at their kids' sporting events. We'll try to find out why it happens and how to prevent it. Bernie Goldberg, great correspondent. Also a profile of New York Rangers center Mark Messier. He's back in New York for one last stop before the Hall of Fame. Real Sports, where nothing is out of bounds.
Understand? Come on now. The guy wants to go, but he needs you to help him to go. When he leans away, take the body, but punch and recover. All right, hey.
Center, you're doing good, baby. But you are, but I need a little bit more work. Okay.
CompuBox numbers through 3 rounds say Maskaev has been the better jabber. 16 out of 58 to 7 out of 79 for Johnson. The jab was more key to Johnson's plan for winning the fight. Harold, how do you have it through 3?
Okay, Jim. I got a 2.
And Harold, we've got a knockdown. A big knockdown with a left hand by Kirk Johnson.
6, 7, 8. Are you all right? Big gloves. Put your hands up.
This is a whole new fight, Manny.
A left hook that came after the right hand. No one was expecting a left hook. But this, once again, is going to be interesting to see if he can survive.
Maskaev goes through the ropes. Same place where he put Hasim Rahman last year in Atlantic City.
It's over.
And the referee stops the fight. And Kirk Johnson, who told us that he didn't think he could knock out Oleg Maskaev, does it with a huge left hand. I mean, a big one.
Well, we've talked about it, Emmanuel, endlessly about the left hook being the most devastating punch in boxing.
And particularly the left hook that comes after right hand, much like Mike McCallum hit Don Curry with, and Bob Foster knocked out Big Tiger. Bob Foster knocked out Mike Corey.
Joe Frazier knocked down Muhammad Ali with a left hook.
But particularly after right hand, you never see it when you throw a right hand. It comes up the blind side. And that was not so much it was a hard punch, but the fact that he didn't even see the punch. It would got to be a battle of right hands, and Kirk cheated a little bit to throw a left hook after he threw a right hand.
Well, he had Maskaev coming in aggressively, looking to throw the right, leaving himself a little bit open. And he is a quicker-handed fighter than Maskaev. So
I wonder if Curtis Coates asked for that left hook after the right hand. He's a pretty sweet fighter who's pulled a few tricks himself.
Oh, yeah, his career. Well, I think it got to be, as I said, a battle of right hands, and if someone threw a left hook, it was something that no one expected.
It was a beauty. Yes. Larry Merchant headed into the ring. Kirk Johnson enhances his unbeaten credentials. Been waiting a long time for this man to emerge into stardom, and he might have done it with a big blow right there.
He did it tonight.
Oleg Maskaev was the man we were calling number 3 in the heavyweight division, partially because he knocked Hasim Rahman through the ropes in Atlantic City, and now it's Maskaev who gets to go through the ropes tonight. And let's take another look, Imani, and tell us again about how he set up the left hook.
Well, basically, he threw a right hand, which basically Maskaev was looking for all night, but he came back with a left hook. And that was something that he had not been throwing effective the last couple of rounds. And Maskaev, it wasn't so much that the punch was just hard, he didn't see the punch. And that's the worst punch in boxing, to get hit with, the punch you don't see.
As you say, Mike McCallum against Donald Curry. Bob Foster all those years ago.
Oh, it's the most dangerous punch in boxing, a left hook that follows a right hand.
Boom. Brilliant shot by Johnson. This is the man who said to us yesterday, I don't think I can knock Maskaev out. He proves himself wrong as he comes back to do more damage and just lands with lefts and rights until Oleg goes through the ropes.
Both fighters came in with a lot of determination in their eyes tonight, which, you know, and this is a fight that could have easily been a very boring fight, with Maskaev basically back and back like he has did in the past a lot, waiting for the perfect right hand. But he came out more aggressive, and Kirk Johnson just had a look in his eye when he came in, and he was just determined to not be denied tonight. So I think the emotional state of the mind made it a much more exciting fight than I expected it to be.
And you know what? Talent rose to the top, because as good as Maskaev is, he doesn't have the natural gifts that Kirk Johnson has always had, and tonight Kirk Johnson capitalized on those gifts. Let's go to Mark Vera with the official particulars on the decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time, 51 seconds of the fourth round. The winner by knockout and still undefeated, Kirk Johnson.
So Johnson further enhances his unbeaten record, blemished only by a draw with Al Cole in a fight in which Johnson had 3 points taken away for low blows, and he later came back to avenge that defeat, decisioning Cole a year and a half ago in Tacoma, Washington. Since that time, 18 months with only 3 rounds of activity. He was a little bit of an unknown quantity coming in against the much more known quantity in Maskaev. They fired rockets for the better part of 4 rounds until Johnson put him away. Let's take a look at final CompuBox numbers on this heavyweight war. Maskaev landing 34 of 128, Johnson 33 of 159. The overwhelming bulk of the punches landed on both sides were power punches. And you see there, Maskaev 18 of 68 in the power punch category, Johnson